Hey, welcome everybody. It's John from Roguecast. You may also know me as the Net Guy on YouTube. We're streaming to both sites simultaneously right now. You can catch us on roguecast.com. You can join the chat there. If you're watching us on YouTube, there's that as well. And it's also on my personal Facebook because what better fans are there than Mom, right? So I appreciate you guys joining. Today we're going to be checking out a 27-inch wide quad HD monitor from MSI. This is the MSI Optix. Let's see if I get this right, because they've got the longest letters in the industry. The MAG 272 CQR. Great monitor. It's got a ton of really advanced features. And you can see here, just looking at this that I've got playing back, the black levels in this thing are amazing. It really reminds me of an IPS display. And actually I have to do one errata here. On some of the thumbnails I wrote IPS because I thought that's the one I was looking at. This is actually a VA panel. And we're going to go into the difference of what's a VA panel, what's an IPS panel, and I'm going to show you how this one might be the best of all worlds. Why is it a gaming monitor? It's 165 hertz refresh rate. And that's huge. That means 165 times a second it's able to refresh the panel. And that's awesome if you've got, a video game or other, content that has that high frame rate. So I'm going to go through a couple things real quick here. Just some housekeeping. What is Roguecast? Let's talk about that. So Roguecast is a new e-tailer of gaming components, and the Roguecasters, the crew you see there, Iggy, Jeff from Craft Computing, Josh, Keith, and others like myself, will give you real-world experience reviews on PC components, what works well together. We're doing live streams like this so you can see about it. We're also doing special events. One of the things I'm really excited about today is the ability I have to give you a great price not only on this monitor, but an outstanding price on one of its very closest cousins. So there's many, many different ways that we can give discounts, and Roguecast is offered a lot of them. I'm going to talk about those here in a little bit. Who's the Net Guy? That's me. If you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me on my YouTube channel. I do a lot of monitor reviews. I actually had one of my monitor reviews blow up, and it did really well. It was a 30-inch widescreen. And so it's kind of been a passion project of mine. I love monitors, and when they called me up and said, hey, we've got an MSI we want you to check out, I couldn't wait to do it. So if you want to follow me on my socials, you'll actually be able to see how this studio got put together. I just finished it late last night, so I'm very excited. We'll probably work some kinks out here if there's any in there as well. So let's get started. Let's talk about this monitor. It's got some key features that I really want to talk about. At the $377 price tag, which is not what you're going to pay today, I'm going to talk to you guys more about that. It's got that 1440p resolution. And what that means is that's the resolution of the pixels on the screen. So that's 1440 rows of pixels, and there's 2560 across. So wide quad HD. So there's 4 720 HD signals in that one area. It's got that high-speed refresh rate. For gaming, it definitely has FreeSync capability. Now, coming back here, I've also heard, just looking around, that it'll actually work with G-Sync. So if you've got the NVIDIA cards and you've got G-Sync, it's going to work the same on both of those. So you don't have to worry about that. When I hooked it up to my RX 6800, the AMD FreeSync Premium turned on, so it's definitely got that. I think there's some licensing issues with G-Sync, which is why a lot of them don't say that they officially support it. It is a curved panel, and we'll talk about what that means. The other thing that I want to point out is the adjustability of it. It's got quite a bit of adjustability here. We'll switch over to the second camera so you can see this. It'll go up and down 130 millimeters. For all these metric people, you might want to help us convert that. So we'll find out what it is in inches. So 130, I think it's about 6 inches of vertical travel, which makes sense. And it's got a really nice stand. One thing I'll point out, and again, I'm just being honest here, I'll tell you everything about the products as I think about them. This stand design, when you have this wide kind of tripod leg design, you gotta be real careful for tipping. Like if you get it onto a desk edge, sometimes I've seen, like with some of the other brands where they have a really aggressive slant, I actually destroyed a monitor. I hate to admit it. I pushed it onto the edge of a desk and it slid off. This one's actually not that aggressive. It's very well planted. I can wiggle my stand here, but it's wiggling the whole table. It's not wiggling the monitor itself. So there's that adjustability. And then if we go over to that side view again, I think you can actually see that curvature that I'm talking about. So it's definitely got a curve to it. It's not like a flat monitor. And it does have an anti-glare coating on it. It's lots of lights going on in here, so it's doing the best it can. But if you look at it from this front view, you can see it's not really throwing light until I point it directly at my large overhead lights. My head is throwing off more light than it normally does. So definitely a good monitor if you're in a gaming environment. If you're in a darker room, that works really well. Like I said, VA panels, excellent blacks here. And then the brightness on it, you can see how crisp and clear. This is at like 0% brightness for the live stream, but it gets way, way brighter than that as well. So I'm going to check real quick on the chat. Got a question from Pinky Tech. Now, by the way, thanks, Joe. Great channel. I watch all of his videos too. Can it go vertical on the stand? Great question. I'll talk about the stand when we go to the unboxing. It does have Visa mounting capability, so you can absolutely mount it to a monitor arm and turn it. 27 is right at that area where you can start to vertically rotate monitors. And so after that, I don't think that the vertical rotation makes sense on a 32. So 27 is kind of that maximum that I would go. Great question. And just a reminder, I'll check in here on the questions and make sure and see if we have any. Nothing on the Roguecast site yet. But I'll just make sure that we cover those questions. If you have a question, shoot it out there, and as I go through, I'll get to it, or I'll tell you when we're going to get to it. So going back to the key features, the 1500R curve, just what that means is a 1500 millimeter circle, the monitor would follow that perfectly. So 1500R is real common. 1800R is actually more common I've seen in this range, and I thought that 1500 might be a little aggressive, but actually it works out really well. Haven't had any problem about that. The adjustable stand definitely has that capability. And then I want to talk to you about connectivity, because that's actually something that this monitor has, and it's the first one I've actually worked on that has this capability, and I want to show you that real quick. I'm going to show you the connection ports on the monitor. Hopefully you guys can see that. So it's going to have a display port, 2 HDMIs, and this guy. It is a USB Type-C, and that's running all the way over there to my MacBook. And I have a single cable now that connects my MacBook to the monitor. So everything that I've been doing and showing you here is coming off my MacBook as a secondary screen. And it's directly out of a single cable. And the nice thing about USB-C is there's no orientation issues, and there's no end. Which end of the cable do I've got? Display port and mini display port and HDMI and VGA and DVI and dual link DVI, all of those things, you had to get the cable right. So if you're futzing with the back of your machine trying to get the cable in, the Type-C connector is a really cool advantage that this monitor has over several others. So really excited to see that. Hey, welcome Alvin, I see you in the chat there. And so let's go through some of the specs real quick, and then I'm going to hit the promotion, because we have a time-limited promotion on this. I want to get you guys in it, but I want you to know what you're buying here. You can go look this stuff up. I'm sure you can look up the model number there. The model number's in the upper right corner there as well. But, I've covered a few of these already, so I'm not going to get into those. But the pixel pitch, I think that's something really important. As you get to these larger monitors, 27 inches, 32 inches, sometimes full HD is not enough if you're doing office work. If you need to do photo work and you're looking at lines and you're looking at spreadsheets and you've got text, specifically text on a page, then you need that tight pixel pitch. And this 27 size with the Quad HD, super tight pixel pitch. It's actually as good, if not better, than I think a 24 at full HD. It's actually better or tighter than that. Somebody can check that up in the chat. Oh yes, it's a Mac. Hey, I game on this one back here. Don't give me a hard time. But yeah, so the pixel pitch is great. So in 27, I don't normally recommend full HD because I think it gets a little blocky if you're using it not for gaming use. But hey, we game at full HD on 60-inch flat screens or larger, so I don't want to hit them up too much on that. The other thing I was going to say about color and color accuracy, let's go back here. I'm going to play back some of this really cool video for you that I found. It's just got some neat colors to it. 1 second. Okay. But yeah, so this is what we're talking about when I say color and color accuracy. We're going to come back to this so you guys can see it. Normally an IPS display is on the far end for creators. My MacBook down here, my iMac over there that's running the stream, those are all IPS displays. And you know, the IPS display usually has the best color, but believe it or not, both of these are locked at 60 Hertz. I can't go any higher. So that's usually where IPSs had the slow refresh. The VA panel is kind of that middle, you know, if you're thinking of the, is it the Three Bears or whatever, the wolf and the blow the house down thing? Yeah, it's kind of a good middle ground here, right? So the VA has good color, it's got great blacks, and high refresh rate. And then on the far end, which you don't see as much now, was initially were those TN panels. You've probably seen them. And the TN panels, they had decent refresh rates, but the view angles were awful. So this thing says it's got a 178 degree view angle. It's not as good as IPS, and when you have that curvature, it's going to be hard for your friend to sit like way over here and look at it. So we're not playing games on the couch, right? We're at a desk. So it's plenty for two people to sit in front of it, watch a show, or do something like that. But I did want to point out some of those features that it has in that rich color accuracy. So we'll come back to the specs here. Contrast ratio, this is usually where IPS monitors fall down, which they only have about 1,000 to 1. So the VA here is really giving you that contrast ratio, which you like. That's that large range and gamut here. So that's a really cool feature to have. And then the brightness on this monitor, you know, is listed at 300. It tested out really close to that, but when I kicked it over to the HDR mode, it came in at 360. So it was just huge for what it's coming in. When it's coming in at overrated spec, that's even better. And I'll show you here some gameplay footage that I had in a little bit that shows how that can actually be an advantage to you. So you've got a wide range and a wide range of brightness. It says HDR ready. To do HDR 400, you got to have 400 nits. You usually have to have local dimming. So it's not going to be an HDR display in that sense, but it's still a great monitor. I'm having an awesome time with it doing gaming and other stuff. So we'll go through those. I think we got all those, the AR coding, and then the response time. Response time is really important. They're all kind of coming around to that 1 millisecond. That 30-inch I was telling you about before, it was a 200 hertz panel, but it had a 5 millisecond response time. And that's the time for the LCD, for the doors essentially to open and close to let light through in different colors. And what was happening is that 200 hertz, if you divide 1 second divided by 200, it's exactly 5 milliseconds. So you get extreme ghosting and banding when you're at high refresh rates. So having a 1 millisecond response time is even better for this. And if you want better, you know, sharper, less ghosting, there's two ways you can do that. In the monitor, you can overdrive the pixels. So you can turn it into an overdrive mode, and it'll actually try to do a little bit tighter job if you know you need the high frame rates. Then, you know, the other option in there, if you want it to do that, is to lower the refresh rate value. I go to like 120, and that reduces the ghosting as well. So it has the ability to go up to 165, and it looks good at that. There is some ghosting, and I'll show you. But you can always lower it down to 120, which is still a really fast gaming monitor. I'm going to check back through on the chats real quick. Okay, no new questions on that. Let's talk about the promo that we've got going on. And don't all run out and spend these at once. There's a limited amount of them. I'm going to hit the button here and I'll talk through it. There are two specials today on these monitors. Now the first one is a very close cousin to this monitor. This monitor retails for $377, and that's not necessarily covered. I'll talk about that next. But this other very close cousin has a lot of the same main features as far as the resolution, the screen size, the stand. It's actually the newest model. So this CQ4 has come out, and it's a newer model. For Roguecast viewers that are watching this stream, if you use the code ROGUELIVEMAY, the first 20 people in the next couple of hours here that use this will get $134 off of that price, which is huge. It's a great deal. You're getting a monitor very, very similar to this one. I'll talk about the differences when we get in there. For $200, quality monitor. The second thing for this monitor model and others that we have, it must be Monitor May, because the code Monitor May for the first 50 customers is going to knock $100 off the price. Now, it doesn't work on that CQ4 model because you're getting a better deal if you use the other code. So they wanted to do that instead. But $100 off any monitor that's $299 and up, and that's just essentially free money, right? If I was shopping for a monitor right now, and maybe I didn't want a 32, or maybe I wanted the IPS version of this that they have out there, you can use that Monitor May code. So I'll repeat that later. You'll get to see that as well. Can it run 165 on HDMI and DisplayPort was one of the questions that just came in from Pinky Tech. Great question, and actually it can run 165 on the DisplayPort. I believe the HDMI is lower slightly, and it also depends on the spec. So this actually does have HDMI 2.0 ports. So depending on the cable specs, your cards, all that stuff, you may be able to get up that. But I double check the specs on there. I'm not sure. I know on the DisplayPort it definitely does the 165. Perfect. Okay, so we talked about the promo. I'm going to go through the unboxing process real quick and just show you what was involved in that. I thought about unboxing it here and putting it together, but you guys would probably all fall asleep by the time I got there. So what I'm going to show you here is yesterday the unboxing process. We'll kick it over to you so you can see it full screen. So that was when I was unboxing it yesterday, and next time tell me to smile. I kind of forgot it was late and I didn't think about it. But you basically get a DisplayPort cable, an HDMI cable, a power cable, and a USB cable, along with this little packet that has Visa standoffs, which I'm going to talk about here in just a second. So it has all your most important cables that you're going to need there, some instructions. And what they're telling you, and this is I'm going to stop it right here for a second. This is a very important thing when you're working with curved monitors. Even if you have a towel or something, you set them down on a flat table, it's dangerous. They can crack and they can have stress put on them. A lot of people commented on one of my videos because I had put a curved monitor down. They didn't like it. Always save the box. That's what they're telling you here. Save that box. Do all of the work that you want to do with the stand on the box, and that's going to save it from any stress because the box has a natural curve in the packing. So I always recommend for monitors like this, never throw out the packaging. You always can use the packaging and it can be used for other things later. So like moving, if you ever have to move, it's almost impossible, and it's kind of fun to get this out of the box. It's about 14 pounds, and I was able to get it out there, and I'm going to show you the stand here. Again, it comes out with that Y design. There's only 3 screws that you have to put in to do a proper unboxing here. There's this screw on the bottom that screws into the base, and so it's just captive in there. And then when we take this apart, it's almost easier just to tear the packing around it here because it's not easy to lift out the way that they have it. Almost wish they only had little 2 side channels. I almost wish they did a better job on that. But in here, there's the monitor stand itself. So the monitor stand comes out there. And again, I'm going to skip forward in the interest of time so we're not here for 2 hours. And right there, that monitor stand is going to click in, and then it has 2 screws. Now it has the 2 other screws for the Visa mounting already in there. So they're actually already in the top of behind the stand. So if you ever need to Visa mount this, let's talk about that real quick. So almost all of my monitors are Visa mounted. So if you ever need to Visa mount the monitor on an arm or stand, I highly, highly recommend, one second, I highly, highly recommend using that as an option. These stands are good, and this is a very good stand as far as stands go, but that flexibility of complete range of motion, correcting any sort of tilt, swing, swivel, that kind of stuff, or even getting it out of the way, or using it almost like a sit-stand workstation. Some of them have such range that you can actually raise them all the way up and use them as a sit-stand workstation. There is a little packet here, and I'm going to switch over so that you guys can see it on this camera. There's a little packet of standoffs, and when I was doing the installation here, I'm just at that point. That's why I wanted to show this to you. Save these standoffs because they're proprietary for this monitor. I'm going to come back here. They're proprietary for this monitor, and if you don't save the standoffs, what you're going to end up seeing, I'll go back over here. there's a kind of a recess that clicks into. You see right there? So if you don't save those standoffs, your VISA panel or your VISA plate may not fit the monitor. So especially if you have a removable one. So that's a really good point here, is to take and just make sure that you've got that standoff right there. So make sure you're using that. And then we'll go through here, just 2-screw installation. Go ahead and tighten that back one here and lift, and there you got a monitor. So, you know, unboxing, really, really simple. I'm going to come back here off of that and we'll talk about some other stuff. Just real quickly, kind of confused me. It has a joystick for control back here, which I really like. I prefer joysticks over hidden mystery buttons on the side of the monitors. The joystick works, and it's a 5-way, so it's got push in and then 4 directions. I couldn't figure out how to turn the thing on. It's kind of embarrassing. There's a very small power switch in this lower corner where this light is. It's just a small push button switch. So there was that. There's also another cool advantage of this monitor over many others. It has a assignable joystick button over here, which is really slick. So let's say you want to launch up your favorite app or your favorite game or the on-screen display software. So it has software that you can do all the controls with, so you're not even fighting that joystick. You can kind of do presets and other stuff. So you can assign this button so that when you hit it, it's going to do the display software. I'm going to show you one other thing real quick on the specs on the second page here. We talked a little bit about the inputs. We're just talking about that joystick now as well. And the input latency. This is a couple other questions that people often have. Input latency on this is very low, but it also has a console mode. Now the console mode is on one of the ports. The cool thing is it has HDMI CEC standard. So you can use that. I don't even have that in my house upstairs. You know, I don't have it on my main TV. But with HDMI CEC, you can actually have it turn the monitor on and off with your gaming console. So if you have it plugged into the right port, I think it's one of the HDMI ones, you can turn it on and off. You can control some of the monitor features through the HDMI CEC. So that's really cool. And then it is limited to full HD when you're on that console mode, but it is 120 hertz. I've had a lot of people asking lately about gaming consoles, because with all these ports on here, you're going to have one place, maybe you're in a college dorm or you're in your man cave office and you only have a spot for one monitor, but it needs to do multiple duties. This will definitely run a console gaming system, a laptop like I'm showing you with this USB-C cable, regular HDMIs and all that. So that's just a couple features I wanted to hit that weren't necessarily covered in a lot of the specs I saw. So console mode. And then lastly, I don't have it hooked up right now to show that, but I'm going to go back over here and let you take a look at this. It has RGB. And, you know, there you go. I've got it set to rainbow mode. This is the Mystic Light software from MSI. So you can go through the OSD and actually pick in the OSD software that RGB. Now it's a simple panel right there. It's not a crazy amount of RGB. It's not going to come out of the woodwork there and bite you, but you know, it definitely has that capability if it's something you like, if it's stylistic, it matches your case. Maybe your desk is set up so that, you know, people can see from the backside. So it's pretty cool. Definitely like that. I'm going to check the chats one more time. Look at that new studio. Yeah, it is, Dan. A lot of work. He knows how much work I've been putting into this. How does this monitor differ? So Alvin's asking, how does this monitor differ from other MSI monitor and other brands? Actually, that's a great question. One of the things that you can run into is there's so many different opportunities for monitors. You can get IPS monitors, you can get VA monitors, you can get high refresh rate, low refresh rate. You can get pre-calibrated monitors that have calibration sheets that come with them, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. You have just so many choices out there. One of the things I would recommend, go on to MSI's website. They've got a really good grid of all of the monitors and all of the features. They even have a comparison tool where you can check two off. If I had it set up here, I would totally demo that for you, but I don't want to get trapped trying to find that. But go in there and definitely compare it with the other monitors that are in the near vicinity of it. And it'll tell you maybe one of them has that console KEC mode, and you don't want to have to keep turning both items on. So maybe that's something that you want. So very good idea there. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple more things that I discovered on this and that I really liked. I'm going to go to one of my favorite recent games, Doom Eternal. I shouldn't say it's a recent game. It's a little bit older, but it exemplifies one of the things about this monitor that I wanted to talk about. So the HDR mode. So I was looking at it and I'm like, you know, this thing's looking kind of flat, right? So I went in there and sure enough, you can go into the HDR modes and you can turn HDR on and then you can set this. This is also Assassin's Creed Valhalla. If you guys have played this, that's another HDR title. This allows you to bump that saturation up, to get the blacks as black as they can be, get the whites as white as they can be. And I'm going to show you the difference on the gameplay. So you can kind of see it already tuned up here. And it's really hard, you know, filming a monitor. But this scene especially I thought was awesome. Let me run over here real quick. And I'm going to pull up the view that we want. 1 second. Okay, I got to take it out of full screen mode, sorry, to give you guys the view that I wanted to show you. So, Doom Eternal gameplay, and hopefully you guys are seeing this on a device that has really good color accuracy, but, you know, this game is well known. I'm going to go back over. A little gory here, but this game is well known for the you know, high brightness and the flashes here. There's a little, you know, big explosion that happens. So that HDR mode is just huge. Okay, it's a little bit gory. I'll probably take that out. But, you know, great monitor to have that HDR capability. You know, it may not have the certification, but going from 0 to 360 nits as tested, that was just awesome. So had a lot of fun playing that game. The other thing is I wanted you to look at the upper right corner, the frame rates that you can pull on a game like Doom Eternal. So with that card that I have, I've seen 500-600 frames a second. So it can do huge frame rates up there. And you want a monitor, again, that has the higher refresh rate for a fast-paced game like this that can actually show the game the way it was intended. So really cool capabilities here. That was just one of the games that I've been playing on there and had a really enjoyable time with. Do you want to talk about a couple other things? Yeah, I checked out Fortnite and Rocket League. Esports titles, that's the cool thing about Rocket League and some of these other ones. I'm playing Fortnite with my daughter now. You know, she loves it. Of course, you know, it's kind of old now, you know, but Dad plays it, so it can't be as cool. I'm also on Facebook, which I guess everybody already left, so... but the eSport titles generally run even with a mediocre graphics card. I got a box of you know 1070s and 580 graphics cards that will run it well into the 100 frames a second. And so it's good to have those esports titles, a monitor like this that won't break the bank and can make a really, really enjoyable experience. So I'm going to talk about calibration because that is really important. Maybe not if you're just going to be straight gaming. You can set the color, warmth, and do whatever. But if you're going to be a creator like myself, if you're going to take photos, if you're going to try to do any sort of editing, it really is nice to have a monitor calibrator. Now this one that I use came from the Data Color company. It's called a Data Color Spider. And it's kind of cool. It's actually just a big camera, essentially. And it plugs in USB, and then it slides over the monitor. I'll show you what that looks like here. So I slide it over the monitor, and then I go through all of the different phases there, and it's going to check the brightness of the monitor. We're going to go through each zone. So here's where it's checking the contrast and luminescence, and there's other tests that it does. One of the things that this thing just destroyed on, and I really wanted to show you guys this. I'm going to go to the Finder here. Ignore I said Finder, people. I mean, I'm going to go into Windows Explorer here. I'm going to bring this over for you. Well, let's start with the results first. The monitor did really, really well. So this is a 4.5. On a VA panel, it's putting out numbers that are in the range of an IPS display. I would say that this would be a quality IPS display with the black levels, with the other things that has. This is actually what they call Delta E. So if you're doing any sort of creative work, you want your reds to be red and your blue to be blue. I put out my first YouTube video and I didn't know anything about color grading, and sure enough, it was way off. So the highest one I think on here is at 2.5, a Delta E, and that's not visible. Under 3 is not visible as a color shift, and that's just one color there. So in the end, its average Delta E is very, very low. But the thing that I also thought was really, really valuable and something that you can appreciate here was actually the luminance at 50% brightness. So come back here real quick. So the way monitors are tested, they have a LED panel, and I'm going around the different sections of the monitor. I'm looking for cold spots, essentially, where the light's not coming through evenly. And monitors are mechanical things. They're put together by machines and people screw up sometimes. I've had monitors with dim corners, which is just frustrating when you're trying to create stuff, when you're working on documents and half your monitor is darker than the other part. So this thing is outstanding. This was an exceptional result that I saw. Now, when you go to the highest brightness levels, the maximum difference is 8%, which again, single digits. This, you don't see this kind of stuff. I've had, art monitors, Pro Art, from Asus that have not performed as well. And then we can go up here and then you can see the brightness. So peak brightness on this one came in at 200 in that quadrant. And then there's the delta E on color. Very, very even across the board when it did the color tests as well. So won't spend too much time on this because this really is a gaming monitor. But I just wanted to show that capability exists for this monitor to do gaming and creation. So believe it or not, I think this one is going to get its home back here in the studio because it's just a great all-around versatile monitor. It's going to fit well in that space. A 32 that I have up here is just too big. 32 is a nice monitor. It's a good size. But I think this one's going to have a place in the studio for quite a long time. I'm going to go back and check for another couple questions, and then we'll start to wrap up here. It's good for backlighting. Okay, yeah. Awesome. I love it. Yes, it is one of the best reviews of monitors that you've seen. Okay. MSI's warranty. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for answering that. MSI does have a 2-year warranty on this, and the Roguecast is offering the standard 30-day coverage. So that's awesome. And there's free shipping on this monitor. We need to talk about those promotions again one more time. This is a crazy deal. If I needed another one of these now, I might even think about picking one up myself, except I'm doing the live stream. The first one here is a very close cousin to this. It doesn't have the USB-C. I don't know about the RGB on it. And it doesn't have the USB hub that this one has built into it. So you're not going to get the on-screen OSD, which I'm going to show you here in a second. It is a more vanilla, but also a newer release model. It has more color, actually. So this thing has a pretty good color range. This CQ4 model that they came out with has a little bit more color, a little less brightness, though. So it's not as bright. I think it's 250 nits versus 300. And if you're gaming, you're gaming in a dark room, I'm not worried about a difference of 50 nits. Most laptops you buy are between 250 and 300 anyway. And so unless you're trying to take something outdoors, you really don't need more than that. So that's just one thing I wanted to point out. I'm going to go through just a couple other things that I do whenever I get a monitor first. So I just want to point this out. This is a website that I use called Dead Pixel Buddy. And it's going to... oh, I didn't run it through all the settings there. But I'm going through looking for dead pixels. It lets you shift between the different primary colors. So you can go through white, you can go through reds, you can go through all those, and you can look for dead or stuck pixels. And I don't have the name up here, but it's Dead Pixel Buddy. Just search that in Google. It used to be an app that you downloaded, and now it's a website. Do that whenever you buy a monitor, because then you can work on, if there are a zone of dead pixels, you can usually work with the manufacturer or the seller to return it and get a monitor that's error-free. The other thing that this test actually did here, I turned off all the lights in my studio on purpose. There's a problem with a lot of IPS displays where they have an IPS glow. It's kind of like this pillowing effect. Now this does it slightly, even though it's not an IPS, but you have to remember this room is pitch black other than my machine there, and the camera, the GoPro here, is automatically trying to boost the light levels as high as it can. So ultimately it was a great showing for a monitor to pull this off. That kind of showing, not bad at all. I was really, really happy with that. And then lastly, let's go through here. When you want to test high refresh rates, so let's talk about that over here. So this is the UFO test. And it's kind of interesting. It got its name from this test. I'm guessing this is the one they started with. I'm going to try to zoom in. Oh, I'm already zoomed in. I can't get a little bit closer. So what they're doing here is those little UFOs that you see, they're leaving traces. This top line is at 165 hertz. The next line is going to be at like 120, and then the next line is going to be at 60. So what they're actually doing is they're showing you the ghosting that you're going to see. And if you take the monitor and you bump up some of those overdrive features, it's going to actually cause inverse ghosting. So it's going to be a leading edge ghosting that you'll see. So it's a really good website. It's got lots of funny stuff that you can do. It also has a couple optical illusions that you don't know about. Like you can hold your hand in front of half the screen and you think it's a picture of something, you turn it away. And that's just the way that monitors put things together. So you can see kind of a horizontal banding here, and that's on a moving image, and that's just the way that the monitors react to shifting pixels, and it'll create a band. So it's a normal one. And this is an anti-aliasing test, so you can see that kind of the edge, the way the monitor is handling those anti-aliasing features. So again, another cool thing that you can do, and that's the UFO test website. Not Roswell UFO, but UFO test. And I'm going to go over here and close this so we don't have that up. So that's another great opportunity, is to use that UFO test one. And then last feature I'm going to show you here is something I thought was really cool, and it's the gaming OSD. So you can go through the monitor. I'll go right now and you just see it. I'm going to hit it, and I've got a little OSD here. Like I said, right now, let's see what the brightness is on this. Yeah, it's at 4. So you can tell this thing will get bright. It's all the demo I've been doing today is at 4. I could go up a little bit, and it's going to make those colors pop a little more. And so I can bring the brightness up a little bit. There we go. So, but realistically, you can go through and you can set all those modes. You can set quick mode. So if I hit down, then I've got a crosshair mode now. Tell me in the chat here. I got a kind of a personal question here. Are crosshairs cheating? If they're monitor crosshairs, and you're using them, and your game doesn't support a crosshair, is that cheating? So I think it's a good question we should ask, and I'm looking to hear the answers that people write in there. But you can do it this way. That's one way. And again, they've got shortcuts for all that, and you could learn how to do that eventually. They came up with an even cooler way to do it, and I'm excited about this. And now hopefully you can see that. Oh, it came on my side. Let me go pull this over to your monitor. There you go. There is the gaming OSD. So what you can literally do is go in here, you can control the backlighting, you can control the frame rates, you can control where the refresh rate counter goes on the screen. You can change all of these settings very, very easily, and you don't have to do anything but move your mouse. And then it applies the setting directly to the monitor that way, something I really like. So really, really happy with that. And so that is the main features that I wanted to cover from this monitor. So that's the MSI Optix. This is the MAG 272 CQR. So we've got that on Roguecast.com right now. A great monitor. I think the retail right now is $377. You can use those promo codes to knock it down. So that monitor's covered, the MAG model, and I have it wrong there. It's actually $377 retail and $100 off. So you could get that thing in there for $277. That's the best price I've seen on the web on it today. So first 50 customers, if you want to get this exact monitor, you can use that code. Now, if you want a monitor that's very, very similar, the G27CQ4, again, it's missing some of the more extras. It's missing some of the things like the USB input, the USB-C. It's missing the on-screen display software because it doesn't have a USB cable to communicate with. That's what you need for that. And I don't know about the RGB, but there's a couple things there. But that one for $200, that's a great monitor for kids. The screen size is enormous. The adjustability, when my daughter comes in and plays, she loves having an adjustable monitor. This gets all the way down there. So she's at her eye level, and that's just nice, when you're getting your kids into gaming. And then I'm 6 foot tall, so I need this back up when I get onto there to play. And up on my workbench here, when I'm sitting on the chair, it worked out great last night. Had a great time. I'm going to check the chat one more time, and then we'll wrap up. Awesome. Okay, Pinky Tech. Crosshairs are cheating. Never admit to using crosshairs. That's the thing that I would say, is just never admit that you're using crosshairs. I do think one of those streamers or whatever got caught somehow doing that. Does not have HDR. Yeah, in that 250 nits range, you're definitely not going to get the pop that you do of the really high brightness to low brightness. Like I said, when you kick this thing into HDR mode, that's $77 difference. It may be worth it for future proofing. And monitors, that's another thing. Roguecast did put out a monitor buyer's guide this month in the newsletter. If you're not already getting our newsletter, sign up for the newsletter. We had an article in there this month that covered most of the stuff I just talked about, but it talked about your monitor probably is going to outlast your graphics card, if you think about it. That's if you can get a graphics card these days. But it will probably outlast your graphics card, so why not get a good one? And you know, these things do last quite a long time, so that's just something to think about. Slightly less offensive than aimbot. I don't even know if I want to say which channel just said this, but it's perfectly fine for us that don't have time to perfect our skills in games and just do benchmarks. Yeah, and Roguecast is reminding we do have GPUs. I think Josh just did a stream and they offered a discount on a GPU, which was awesome. So that's another thing to remember. Come back here every month. We're doing different products, different live streams. I did a PC build back in January and it worked really well. The new studio is designed here specifically so I can do more builds for you, do more things if you're watching on the Net Guy. So put a lot of time and effort into this because I want to do that. I have a whole rack of products that need to be reviewed. So you're going to see a lot of cool products and a lot of cool PC builds. And Roguecast pointing out, they have 6700 XTs right now. So that's a decent card. I look for a good review on that card, but that's a decent card that you can go check on, and you know, maybe that gets you by until you get whatever you exactly want. But these things are selling like gold right now. So just wrapping up, if you don't mind, go ahead and check this out on my website. Give it a like. Check me out on Instagram. I'm going to post the behind the scenes of building this studio. It was a labor of love, trust me, and it was more labor than love in this. And so I do have a time lapse that I'm going to post tomorrow on there. It's already on the Facebook if you want to see that. I just didn't want to have notification spam in YouTube. So take a look at that at the Net Guy. Also, visit Roguecast.com. You know, check out these Roguecasters. We are looking for more Roguecasters. If you're a channel out there, if you're a streamer, a Twitch streamer, you know, we're looking for people that play games, that use this hardware for real so they know what they're talking about. And not just somebody that wrote an Amazon review and, you know, put a 3-star rating because they don't know what they're doing with it. But we want Roguecasters, so definitely check out some of the stuff. Follow Roguecast on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. They're always putting out specials and they're putting out deal alerts. There is another option if you want to get a monitor and you haven't already checked out and you're not one of the 20 and you're not one of the 50. There's a giveaway this month, and I'm not sure, we're talking in the chat here, if it's this exact monitor or if it's a very similar MSI. I think it's a 27 MSI. I can't be sure if it's the exact one, but there's a giveaway there. So enter for that drawing as well. That's free to enter, and you may have a chance to win one of these things as well. So I appreciate it. I'm going to do one last round to check the questions and comments. If you need to make a studio, I know a guy. There you go. I appreciate you guys all for joining today. This has been John, the Net Guy for Roguecast and Roguecast.com. And thank you for watching.